for joining us. For those of you who are joining us again for a webinar on JavaScript changes. But again, we're here to talk about what Quickbase is doing with JavaScript in the next couple of months and how that impacts our add-ons. We did do this webinar end of April, May, but why are we doing it again? Quickbase released some updated CSS classes since our last webinar. And you can see those in the May. So I have a link to the May release notes, and you'll get a copy of these slides from my help site. But we can now open up as a pop-up from their CSS classes, as well as control the window size and also refresh the screen, which is exactly what the solution that we reached in the last webinar does. So again, this is going to be accessible right from within rich text fields, formula-rich text fields. And we feel it's a better solution than the other available solutions. So that's kind of why we're doing a repeat webinar, but with some new enhancements.
All right, yeah, I think that's just the record.
So we have, so what we're going to talk about today is the JavaScript changes, the impact they have on our add-ons and which add-ons they are impacted. Hey, Matt, can you turn off your sound?
Yeah.
Just again, for those of you who don't know, I'm Keith Justice. I have Matt Tillinghast with me. Matt's from our CSM team. He actually, I guess there's some feedback from his machine. I'm not sure. You still hearing the echo? No? Okay, good. Okay. So the options that we have, I have two crossed out because in our last webinar, we introduced our custom code page, which was our recommended solution. Where we have a new solution now, which is the third one, which is using our add-ons from formula-rich text fields with the taking advantage of the new changes Quickbase released. And you can still use the Quickbase solution, but that's not one that we recommend. But we'll go through them all. So we're going to talk about the changes that are needed for all of them, and obviously we'll open it up for questions and comments at the end. Feel free during the session, drop some notes in the chat. Matthew is monitoring that, so if there's anything important, he'll alert me. And we have resources, our help site. We updated our help site to support the changes that we're talking about today. And you can always reach us through our support ticketing system through the Juiced Cloud. And if you are not a member of the Juiced Cloud, reach out to us and we'll get you on the Juiced Cloud, but most customers are. So again, the add-ons that are impacted, if you're using any one of these add-ons, we use JavaScript in some of these, but again, the only reason why we use JavaScript is to pop open a window. That's it. We're not using JavaScript for anything else. So again, these are the add-ons that if you use one of these, then you want to pay attention here and see how we can get rid of that JavaScript pop-up. So again, we introduced our code page. This will still work. So I know some of you might have been very diligent right after our meeting. You guys went ahead and made changes to your buttons. This will still work. Again, what the features of our custom code page do is it will open up a window, let you control the size, it lets you refresh the screen, and you can use it in a formula URL or rich text field. So it will still work. So it's still a viable option, but we're going to show you another option that we recommend. And we're also going to show you how to, if you did do these changes, how to reverse those and take advantage of the new option. So Quickbase has their pop-up window property. Again, this will work as well, but it's not as good. And some of the reasons, the last three bullets, you can't control the size, you can't redirect and refresh, and you cannot use a formula-rich text field. But since we introduced this last time, I wanted to still keep it here and let you know that why we're not recommending it. So the recommended solution that we're going to put forward now is using our add-ons through formula-rich text fields. So we're going to show you how to change the URL fields to become rich text fields or formula-rich text fields. We're going to talk about what else has to be modified within those formula fields, as well as show you how to customize it further by renaming it and controlling the size and the color, etc. So let's jump in to see what changes we need to make to get rid of this nasty message. All right, so here's an app, a demo app. You will all have access to this app or one similar to it. And I have this opened up in another page over here because really the dashboard here is a little cheat sheet. So it lets you do some copying and pasting. So you won't have to type in any code. except to customize further, but at least we'll get you to the point where you can copy and paste these lines of code into your formula code.
If you want to use
Hey, Keith, just really quick, just don't forget about that semicolon.
Yep, this is important too. So yeah, since I only copy this, we'll talk about this. But whenever you're using a variable, you need to end a variable in a formula code with a semicolon, and we'll kind of highlight that. But this app also has a link to our help site. So in our help site, everything I'm going to talk about in this webinar will be detailed in here. So we're showing you how you can convert our code page solution to use the formula rich text. So some of you who did use the information we provided in our last webinar, you might want to use this page because it's going to tell you how to reverse that. The other button shows you how to actually step-by-step change your formula URL field to a formula rich text field. And that's a pretty simple thing, but we figured we'd show that anyway. And then the third button, it's kind of a little bit more detailed. It goes through step-by-step what I'm going to go through here where you can change everything within that field. But again, you can get to our help site, which also when you're on this page here, you'll have a link to a webinar that we're going to post the recording from this webinar. You'll have a link to the slides that I showed you in the PowerPoint, and you'll have a link to the demo app. And the way you get to our help site is right from our website. So our main website, juicedtech.com, from any of the pages, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see our help center. Click on that. You see Quickbase JavaScript changes, and there you go. So that's where you're going to have access to the recording, the slide deck, as well as the demo app. Let me just close some of these windows. Jump in here. Also, I have a link to the May release. This is the release that Quickbase put out in May, and they talk about what I'm going to talk about, how they've enhanced their classes to include the ability to refresh and size a pop-up window. Okay, so this is a typical app. It's a very simple app. It's a project and task app. So I'm going to go into a record that we have one test record in this app, and we have all of our add-ons installed on this one projects table. So the main add-on obviously is Exact Forms Plus, which is probably what most of you guys are using today. And if you're using Exact Forms Plus, you typically will see two buttons. One that when you click the button, it creates a document and opens it in the browser. That's user experience one. And the other one is when you click the button, it opens up a little pop-up window. This is where the JavaScript is taking place. So it opens up a little pop-up window and allows you to see a progress of what's happening. So if you look at the code behind those buttons, this one you don't have to worry about. There's no JavaScript in it. You don't get that little nasty message from Quickbase. But this one you do have to worry about, because when you open this one up, it does have a JavaScript code in it, and you see that message. Okay, so let's figure out what we're going to do to get rid of that and get rid of this message. So the first thing we're going to do in all of our fields is we're going to change the field type. So we're going to change it from a formula URL field to a formula rich text field. It's a simple change. So now that's done. I'm going to open up the code a little bit more. The next thing we want to do is we want to create a variable. And again, I have the text in another window here. So I'm going to create a variable. And basically what we're doing is we're taking all of the parameters that we pass into our add-on, and we're turning that into a variable. So what I'm going to do is I want to get rid of the JavaScript. So I'm going to put my cursor on the HTTPS and add a double quote. And I'm going to replace the JavaScript line with the variable. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the other piece of code from the desktop. I'm going to get rid of the last lines of code here, which is still JavaScript. Replace that with this piece of code here. And as Matt pointed out before, we want to make sure we have that semicolon in here, because anytime you have a variable in a formula, you need to end it with a semicolon. So basically now I can change the sizing parameters if I want, and I can also change the name of the button. So let's change the name of the button to say create document. And right now we on our help site, we do show how to, what the recommended sizing are for each one of those add-ons. So just let me pull that up. So on this one page here on the help site, we kind of show you what we typically, when we install the add-ons for you, these are the sizes that we use. So for Exact Fonts Plus, we use in 350, 500. So that's what I'm going to use inside here. So I'm going to change that to 350 and that to 500. I could have left it at 1,000, but the window would have been too big. So I want to customize it further. So that's all I have to do now. So now I converted this field to a rich text field. I got rid of the JavaScript lines. I converted this to be a variable, and I added some styling. I'm accessing the Quickbase CSS classes, vibrant success open as a pop-up, sizing my window, and here's the data refresh equals true. So that means after our add-on executes, it will refresh the screen. So now when I click save, and I go back to that button, you can see that it changed the styling of the button. But also when I click it now, it's going to open up a window and it's going to generate the document just like it did before. So the only difference is the button's changed in color and maybe it opens up a little bit to the left than it did before. But in the end, it did the same thing. And when we go back into the code, we don't see that nasty JavaScript message anymore because we just got rid of all the JavaScript.
And one thing to point out as well, the code page solution would actually make the background screen blank out. It would go white. And many of our customers didn't really like that. So this solution does not include that.
Right, so I can show that here. You notice what Matt just said? This is our code page solution. So in our last webinar, we introduced this so that we can still get rid of the JavaScript. And this still, again, does work, but you don't see anything in the background. So let's fix that button now. So if you did use the code page solution, you probably have a button that looks like this. So let's do the same thing and get rid of that. So in this case, I'm still going to create a variable out of all our parameters. So it's a consistent, again, just like with our code page, it's consistent code. I'm going to get rid of this first line and just replace it with a variable. And I'm going to, in this case, I want to get rid of a few lines here because we introduce a width, a height, and a redirect with our code page. You want to get rid of those or just replace them with the code that we brought from the other one. And I forgot the semicolon. See that? So you get an error if you don't have that semicolon, since I didn't copy and paste it, right? You see how everything was highlighted there. And you could put the semicolon there or you could put it on a separate line, personal preference, your choice. A lot of times I put it right on this line instead of having more lines of code in here. So right now, that code page now is not being referenced here. But there's one thing I forgot to do, is one thing I told everybody before. It's the first thing you want to do is change the type. So now I don't want to do that now, otherwise I lose all my changes. So hit save. That's still good. I'm just going to come back in here, change the type, formula, rich text, change type. Good. Now, the only thing I didn't do is I didn't change the sizing. I didn't change the name that we default in here, which is fine. If I just leave it the way it is, you'll see that I need to rename it. And also when I click this now, it's not a small window, it's a huge window. So obviously I don't like that. But the code page now is not being referenced from this button. We can clean it up a bit and we can do our, I think it was 350, 500. And let's call this.
You also have those separate colors, Keith.
Yes, another thing I want to talk. Good call out, Matt. So you notice how this is still the Quickbase blue. Quickbase offers a couple different options. Vibrant is gray, or kind of what you saw there. Alert, because aren't two of the same, right, Matt? Or isn't Vibrant and Success the same? Yeah, your sound is off.
Sorry about that. Primary and Success are the same. We actually went through this with Mark Schneer yesterday. They took out green. That used to be Success.
So if you don't want to use one of those other colors, let me show you if I change it to Danger. Let's make it red. So if I come in here and instead of using Vibrant Success, open as pop-up. I can use danger. And there you go. So that's just part of the Quickbase class. We don't have control over that. They give you the options. These are the only options that we know of right now. They might be changing and adding more colors, but for now, those are the ones that we know. So all that did is really just change the color. Okay, so one thing I wanted to point out, we said before, this is still the old way. I didn't touch this button, so it still works as it does today. When you click it, it generates the document, it opens it up in the browser. I'm going to change one thing on that though, because that's not right. It should open up in another window. So when we typically install Exact Forms Plus in the Stream the browser or open in the browser, this is the experience. It opens it up in another tab and it just presents the document. So remember that look.
I don't know if you're aware, they actually changed the default to be in the same page. Quickbase.
Okay. They probably did. We didn't know that. Okay, so I'm going to change this to be the rich text field. But I want you to see the difference because you might not like the Stream to browser with a formula rich text field. So I did that. Again, I'm going to convert it into a variable. So in this case, since there was no JavaScript in here, I just got to do that. And then I want to make sure I include my semicolon and the styling information. So I changed it to a rich text. I converted this to a variable. I ended the variable, and I'm choosing my vibrant success. And I'm going to do 350, 500, and create. All right, so let's see what happens when we do this. So now I converted it from the old, so it did change the look and feel, but watch what happens now. It opens a window.
It's going to be small.
And it's much smaller, but in that case it's fine, but the worst case is because browsers know how to deal with PDFs, it knows to open it in the browser window. But let's say we want to create a doc instead. And this would hold true for Excel docs because if we're creating an Excel doc or CSV, it's the same thing. When you click this window now, the browser doesn't know how to open up a Word document. So it opens it like that. So you might not like that. If you are creating Word documents or Excel documents using Excel, you might not want to convert this because that's what it's going to look like. It's still going to open it in Word on your desktop. But again, you might not like that window popping up like that. So my recommendation is I like to stream the browser the old way. So if you don't have to change this one to use formula rich text fields. This one you do have to change because this is the progress bar one. So this is the one that uses JavaScript. So you do need to change that one. So again, it's up to you whether you want to do that or not. So if you're always creating PDFs, you might like it popping open another window. So that's personal preference again. Okay, so the Quickbase option, that still works. That's where Quickbase is. We got rid of the JavaScript for Quickbase. And I'm going to go into that one quick. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the Quickbase one, really all they did was they added this in a pop-up so you can use it. But again, if you notice when I click their button, I can't control this size. So it doesn't kind of look that great. As well as when I close this, there's no refresh going on. So that's why we kind of don't recommend that. Okay, so there's one more thing with Exact Forms Plus that we got to worry about, and that's the document templates table. So we took care of the buttons on the master table, which is the ones that actually create the documents. But when we're talking about how to manage the templates themselves, there's buttons in there that also have JavaScript in them, and we have to fix them. So let's go back in to the configurator button, and let's do the same thing we did before. Let's convert it into variable. Get my styling. Get rid of that nasty message. Guess what I didn't do again? I didn't change it to a formula rich text, which is fine. I'm going to save it quick. because I'm going fast. But again, it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter what sequence you do it in, except if you make all those changes and you don't hit the save button, you lose your changes. So formula rich text, change my type. So again, formula rich text, convert it to a variable, add your styling. I'm going to leave those parameters. I'm going to call this EFP configurator. So now I'm naming the button, and that's it. If you leave out the sizing parameters, this Quickbase is just going to default the size. So you don't have to put them in, but you're probably going to want to because you're going to want to control the size. So there we go. The button's changed in styling. And when I click it, it opens up. Again, no more JavaScript in that field. So I'm going to do the same thing to the ed subtables. I'm going to change the type since I seem to forget to do that all the time. From the rich text, change. Put my cursor by the H. Get rid of the first line. Put in the variable code. Wish these would open bigger. Get my other line of styling code. And I'm going to name this one I'm going to leave the sizing the same. So now this one has new styling, no more JavaScript, and it works. Now there's one more button for Exact Forms Plus, and that's on the document subtables table. And that's this guy right here. So there's 3 buttons in the document templates that you have to take care of. The 2 on the document templates table and the 1 on the subtable. And then Exact Forms Plus will be fully remediated again to get rid of that Adobe message. I think I saw that in my clipboard. No, I don't. Change type. Thought you were going to tell me that, Matt. So I'm converting it again to the variable. Getting my styling. Changing the name. Very, very repetitive, as you can see, but we're doing that on purpose to try to drill it into you, the steps that you need to take. So now that button should be fixed. Wait till it loads. Okay, so Exact Forms Plus now is fixed. There's no more JavaScript for Exact Forms Plus in this application on this table. Excel Docs is the same, so I'm not going to go through that. But what I do want to show you is on Docusign, because it's a little bit more complex, because we have some additional code within our buttons. And really the additional code is some if statements. So we're conditionally going to display the window or the button if the file exists, because we don't want to send a file to Docusign if a file it doesn't exist yet. So you see we can have this if statement in here. So that could add a little bit of trickiness in here, and we have this in some of our other buttons. So I'm going to show you how to fix that one. So the first thing I do again is I'm going to take this if statement and I'm going to bring it down to the bottom. And then I'm going to do just what I did before. I'm going to convert this into a variable. And now what I want to do is I want to put this right above that class reference. And the reason for that is because I only want to do that if in fact there is a document. So that's it. So if you do have any conditional statements up there, I like to put variables at the very top and have all my code down below. So that's the only difference, is we really just move the condition right above the reference to the class. So it's not embedded in here anymore. So let's just rename this button. And again, if I want to know what the size recommendations are, I come over here, Docusign to 63940. 630, 940. And I didn't change it. Matt, you didn't tell me. Okay, so all good. I just got to change it.
Muted over here.
I'm remembering right before I hit save, which is good. Okay, so it's a rich text field. I have a variable in play. I move my condition down below, which is right above the styling information. So this should be good to go. So let's click the send to Docusign button. See, it changed the styling. And there you go. Now with Docusign, we got 7 buttons to deal with. So we not only have this send to Docusign. Oh, and actually, you know what? I'm going to deal with the code page too, just in case you did do Docusign for code page. So if you did change Docusign to use the code page, let's do the same thing to get it out of using the code page. So again, I'm going to move my if statement. Whoa, Matt, you didn't tell me.
Oh.
I'm going to change the type to formula rich text. Then I'm going to get rid of my condition because I want it down here. Convert that string into a variable. Get rid of the code page reference, which is this line. So now I'm referencing. Oh, also get rid of this. These are the other lines of code that go with our code page. So I'm going to get rid of those and I'm going to replace them with, well, actually, what's I'm going to do? I'm going to end the variable and I'm going to put the styling over here. And then just put my else side of the condition. So this again, this is if you use the code page option that we presented to you the last time, this is how you would retrofit it to now use the formula rich text field. Send to Docusign. Sizing, I don't know what it was. 639.40.
You're also getting danger close to those anchor strings, Keith. Got to make sure to remember that those anchor strings are extremely important. If they're not there, it won't work.
Yeah, you'll get an HTML error or you'll get some screwy error. But again, you can see that these are fixed. So you're going to do the same thing for the other buttons. I'm not going to go through and do them all, but it's very repetitive. It's the same thing. You have your add recipient. You have a couple additional conditions in there, but you're still going to do the same thing. You're going to take the full conditions, move them down, get rid of the JavaScript and so on. But you're first going to change the field type. So that's how we would handle Docusign. And again, it's going to be the same for the other add-ons. And there's one little special thing we do with our signature add-on. So in our signature add-on, it might look a little different because you'll see this request parameter in here. We're still going to, it still has JavaScript in it. We're still going to remediate it the same way, change the type, formula rich text. As you can see, once you do this a couple of times, it goes pretty quick. Convert it to a variable. Add the styling. Change the sizes for signature 650, 700. Change the name. You don't want to delete one of those extra characters. That's important tag information for the rich text field. So now our signature changed a little bit. So again, size, control, no more JavaScript, refreshes the screen. One more like fancy button that Laura Hillier had brought up to us is in our Amazon S3 add-on. our normal downloads the file right to the browser. So we also added an option, and it works with the new code. If you look at this code, we're using some styling as well to actually download that in a pop-up window. So this will still work as well, but it opens up in a window. So, and again, no JavaScript in there. So I don't want to go through the other add-ons unless somebody has a specific question about them, but just to save on some time here, give you guys some time back, answer some questions. I think we kind of covered everything. Matt, did I miss anything?
Nope, Keith, you did a great job. You know, just everyone's got to remember to make sure to change it to a formula-rich text field in the beginning. That's why we broke up the help site pages like that. You know, it's obviously a vital step. We
also offer a refresh option. So this refresh button, this is the code behind that button. But because someone asked before in another call, do you have just a button that can refresh the screen and do nothing else but doing that? So this is the code to do that. So just a refresh button. That's all it does is refresh the screen. So if you're interested in that, it's a formula-rich text field. We just copied and pasted the code and put it out there so everybody can see it. But that's all it does. It's a formula-rich text field that just refreshes the screen. Trying to think.
Does anyone have any questions or would like to see one of the add-ons that has not been shown yet? All right. Well, we also have this recorded, so we'll definitely be able to rewatch anytime you want. It's going to be on our help site.
Yep. Again, once to get to our help site, go to our Juiced website, scroll all the way down to the bottom, click Help Center, JavaScript changes, a link to a recording once we have it available, download the slides that you've seen here, and you can click here to get to the application. This is the application that we're showing. It's the same application. It's just it's blue instead of green. All right. Well, you can always reach out to us, info@juicedtech.com, support@juicedtech.com. If you're not on the cloud, please contact us. We'll get you on the cloud. Okay, great. Have a great rest of the day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.